Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about some of the systems that are working behind the scenes in Necesse to make this new infinite procedural world possible. This video is going to be quite different than some of the other videos we put out. We're going to cover a lot of very technical systems that hopefully some of you nerdy game devs like me are going to find interesting. My name is Mads and I'm the original creator of Necesse, and I'm also the lead developer on the game as well. Just in case you guys haven't heard, Necesse is coming out of early access on October 16th. Next month, and for that we've completely reworked how the biome and the world generation works. Previously in the game, each biome was sort of divided into its own island. You had to go through a small loading screen to get to each island. Now it's completely seamless and there's no loading screens between each biome, and you can see them sort of blending between each other like you see in the background here. And just the obvious disclaimer before I get started, this is very much still a work in progress, and if we do see any bugs today, then those are going to be fixed before 1.0 launches. This is by far the biggest rework the game has ever gotten. I've been working on and off solo since about mid-April this year, and just last month of August was when it really started to come together and we could start to playtest. Before I get into the first system, I just want to show you what it looks like when you try to load an early access world. Obviously, we highly recommend starting a new world when you do check out 1.0, but we made it possible for you guys to migrate your old world into the new system. This master world is an early access world, and if I click load, then I get this small message, and if I click read more, I get told sort of how the migration is going to work. Basically, how it works is that the old islands are going to be placed down, and you can walk between them, and there'll be sort of very jarring borders between the islands as well. Depending on how fast your computer is and how big your world is, it may take a while, and there's going to be a backup made. It's not possible to stop the migration once it's started. So if your computer sort of if the game stops or you lose power or something, then you'll have that backup to try another time as well. But yeah, as I mentioned, when we get into it, you can sort of see the two different islands here. This was a dungeon entrance island, and this was just a normal forest island in the old system. And as you can see, when the new generation takes over like this, you can see there's very, very jarring borders between the new and old world generation. And that's basically why we recommend taking out making a new world when you do start out. That way you won't have those jarring borders, and you'll also experience a new world generation in its entirety, basically. But all the stuff in Migrate, I mean all your settlers and settlement settings and your homestone and stuff like that, and your chest settings, those are all migrated. They should be just like you left it. There'll just be these very jarring borders between the old and new world generation. The first system I want to talk about is the biome and world generation itself. Essentially how it works is by putting a lot of layers on top of each other. And I made this very early on. I made this tool to help me sort of visualize this. Basically what you're seeing here is all the different biomes in Necesse, so each color represents a different biome. And as you can see right now, it looks very pixelated, but that's because each pixel here is actually very many tiles across each one. And the first layer here, this sort of represents all the layers in the biome generation. The first layer here is basically just randomly putting down a bunch of biomes. And then as you gradually go down the layers, you get more and more details. You will see sort of how exactly this sort of a swamp biome gets turned into a forest biome later on. The first layer here is basically a layer that sort of takes takes a biome or takes a pixel, and it asks the surrounding pixels sort of what's another frequent biome that's here. So it sort of clumps together the biomes that's getting placed randomly. So as you can see, because there was sort of a swamp, I guess, here around here, like here and over here, these tiles these pixels gets turned into swamp as well. And then these next layers are biome rules that we've defined. For instance, we don't really want desert to generate next to snow. So if I click on this first layer here, you can see the desert sort of starts to disappear. and the further layer I go down, the more and more deserts is going to disappear. Obviously, there's still cases, not sure if I can find one here right now, but there's still going to be cases where there's deserts next to snow occasionally, but we try to sort of minimize those as much as possible. And then these next layers are trying to eliminate very small biomes or singles. So for instance, if I click here, you can sort of see, because there's not a lot of snow here, that gets cleared out. There's only one swamp tile here left, that gets cleared out in the next layer, and so on. And now there's only one snow down here, for example, that gets cleared out into plains biome. And now we're basically, this is how the world looks like it's going to generate. And the next layers here we're going to see is sort of increasing the detail around these corners. There's obviously going to be some randomness to it, but it's essentially to sort of make it more detailed. And as we go down the layers, you can see it getting more detail, bit of randomness, and scaling up. And eventually, when we get down to sort of this level, this is going to be the actual. Each pixel here is going to represent a single tile inside the actual game, or the actual world when it's generated. And here is when the layer sort of splits off. So instead of this layer, it keeps asking up every single tile. This one sort of asks this one, and then this one, and then you can add another one down here, for example, that keeps asking this one instead of going down this lane here. So this one, for example, that's the one that introduces the sort of spread between each biome. So as you can see, it sort of had this spread that you saw in the main menu, and if I walk over here, then you can also see it in the world. That's what sort of introduces this seamless and gradual process of going from one biome to another. These ones are sort of just a very the last sort of layers to smooth out the last few rough edges. So for instance, if I click here, and the last one here, you can see it's much smoother in the end here. Obviously, these later layers are a lot more expensive, sort of compute-wise to generate. So if I click here, then you can see it takes a bit more time. For instance, doing this than doing this up here, basically instantly, but still pretty fast. This is probably, I think, 1,000 tiles, or a bit more than 1,000 tiles across, 1,200 tiles across, I guess. So still pretty fast, but it's much more faster to sort of go through the early steps here. And then over here, what we have is sort of the water layer. This, for instance, is where oceans are placed. They're entirely separate from the biomes. And how oceans generate is, as you can see, a lot of this forest biome, for example, turned into ocean. So you'll see that it's possible to have sort of an ocean that's a forest, and an ocean that's a snow biome, an ocean that's a plains biome, and so on. So there's not just a single ocean biome. It's basically, it's a forest ocean, or it's a swamp ocean, or it's a snow ocean, and so on. And then this next layer here is the rivers. As you can see, it sort of introduced a bunch of river generation, and this yellow tile here is basically the beach tile. So that's what placed this sand here, for example. And then this last layer here is for swamp ocean, because we want the swamp to have a lot more land and a lot more water, like in between. This one, as you can see, sort of introduces that. There's a lot more water, there's a lot more land, there's a lot more moisture in the biome itself. And you can also see that when I walk around here, for example. So that's sort of how the terrain generation works in a nutshell. And then, as you can see, there's a lot of new, a lot of other layers coming over here. And these ones are basically to help generate. I'm just going to turn it day so that we can see. These ones are gonna help generate sort of the caves and the rocks inside the caves. So if I click here, then this is how it starts out. And as I click further down the layer, then it gets more and more detailed. The black is basically where I walk, and the purple or pink is where rocks are getting placed. And then this is the river generation for the caves. And this is the lava I think, for the regular caves. This is the caves for the deep caves. A lot more rocks, basically just very similar to this one, just a lot more rocks than the regular caves. This is the lava for the deep caves. A lot more lava in the deep caves than the regular caves, I guess. And then over here comes sort of some of the biome features. For example, this is the forest biome features. This is where we generate sort of what's it called, overgrown grass. So if let's say I walk over here, for example, as you can see, this is sort of where the overgrown grass is generated. It's very similar to all generation. There's just a lot more of it. For instance, with overgrown grass, this is where we generate sort of forest, or I guess oak trees. That's all generated similar to how the caves are. So if for example, if I go into this area here, like around here, you're not going to see any oak trees because they only generate like over here and inside these purple areas. And then there's the spruce trees, similar to the oak trees, just a little bit different sort of a seed, I guess. And then other biome features, I mean, flower patches, pheromone patches, and blueberries where we generate blueberries, cows where we generate cows, I guess, where we generate sheep, a bit all over the place. And this is where the ore generation starts, so this is where we generate, for example, clay inside the caves, copper, irons, gold, and so on, and then the deep cave ores here. And as I get further along, I mean, this is where the plains biome feature start, so it also has overgrown grass, for example. And then further along, I mean, here's a desert, and here's a swamp, and snow biome, and so on. So that's essentially how the terrain generation works. Works by, if I want to know what biome should this tile be, I mean, it asks this one first, and then gradually, as we go down, gets more and more detailed, and this is random. Obviously, all of these layers are very much fine-tuned to how we want the biomes to generate. So, for instance, you're going to see a lot of larger forest biomes and more smaller sort of desert and snow biomes and swamp biomes and so on. So we sort of fine-tune these values within these layers so that we get the generation that we want, basically. But yeah, that's in a nutshell how the terrain generation and the biome generation works in Necesse. Next system we want to talk about is the region system in Necesse. Everything in the world is divided up into these regions, as you can see here. And each region is 16 by 16 tiles. I ended up with that size after a bunch of testing with different sizes, and this one was the one I found the most performant, both memory and sort of compute-wise. Basically, all data in Necesse is stored within these regions. So everything you see in this region is going to be stored in this region. So if, for example, if this squirrel walked into this region, then the region is going to take over the data of that squirrel in the zero. And all the tiles, all the objects, everything basically is stored within this region. Another thing the region system is used for is pathfinding. So built on top of this region system is a sub-region system, which is represented like this. As you can see, each region is sort of divided into other sub-regions, where walls and furniture and so on are their own sub-region, and they divide the region between them. For instance, this is a sub-region that's a wall, this is a sub-region that's a door, this is a sub-region that's open, this one that's solid, and so on. And what that's handy for is pathfinding. We can also represent this with the region pathfinding tool. For example, let's say I pick this tile over here and I want to walk inside here. As you can see, first it checked this region here, then it checked this region up here, then this down here, and since it's also connected with this over here, checked this one small one down here, then this door, and then in here, and suddenly yes, it's possible to find this path much faster than checking each and every single tile But then if I actually want to walk the path, I guess, as a mob, then that's where I'll use the tile pathfinding tool. So for instance, let's say I want to walk from here to here. So you can see it found the path, basically working similar to A star. Obviously, it's not faster than this. So for example, if I speed it up, let's say I want to find a path from over here to over here, click here and then click here. Basically instant. I mean, this took a few milliseconds, I think 1.3 milliseconds it looks like. So still very fast, but much faster is to compare just two numbers and cast that data to figure out if I can actually walk there. Another thing it's used for is rooms. So for instance, if I turn on the rooms, then as you can see, all this out here is one room, this one here is one room, this one here is one room. So basically between two, so if I make walls, for example here, clear this sheep. If I make walls here and clear this one, then this is also one room, even though it's between two regions. And that's used for knowing, for example, let's say the bed was in here and the settler had this bed. You can pretty easily calculate this entire room. What sort of furniture does it have? Does it have a complete floor? Does it have a door and so on? And that way we can calculate the settlers, how happy they are and so on. It's a very handy system to figure stuff out like that as well. Another thing the region system is used for is also sort of world streaming and world generation as well. So if you open up a map here, basically you can see what sort of regions I have loaded on this client. And if I start to walk up, let's say, you'll see that sort of it loads these next regions here. And as I walk further up, it loads these other regions. And you can see down here, this one, it starts to unload because it's no longer needed. And when it reaches a certain point, then it will be unloaded both from the client and the server. That way we don't have to have the entire world loaded. You only need to sort of load what's around the player and tick what's around the player. Then when a region is unloaded, that's saved onto memory and eventually onto the file system for it to be loaded later. That's also how the world generation, I mean, each region is sort of generated in its entirety. So if I walk further up here and let's say the server didn't really know what was going to be here, then it would ask this entire region, please generate for me based on the biome and its terrain duration that I talked about earlier. And then it will send all the data within this region to me over the network if I'm playing multiplayer, for me to know and then for me to load as well. So use both for duration and world streaming and also keeping the data, pathfinding and sort of vicinity sort of querying, as well as settler rooms and happiness and if it's inside and so on. Last thing I want to talk about is the how the presets are generated. So as you probably noticed, places like these and these over here, those are presets that we built or made based on randomness as well. And those are placed within the world generation as well, but they're not part of the biome and the terrain generation. Instead, they're part of something called the preset region generation. And how that works, if I open up the map here, you can see sort of that all presets are generated within sort of very large chunks. So for instance, all this here is generated at once so that it knows where presets are. I think this is 1,000 by 1,000 tiles across, so pretty big. And what that benefits has is that if I want to know where the nearest dungeon is, then I don't have to generate the entire world. I can just ask this preset system, where's the nearest dungeon, and at that point you'll probably find this one over here. But yeah, as you can see, it's still built on the old region system. For example, here you can see there's a hunter cabin, and over here is the surface ruins. And the way that works is if this region is going to be generated, then the preset region system tells the generation that, well, if you're going to generate this region, then you also have to generate this region and this region and this region, for example. because I have to place this entire preset here, else it's not gonna work. And as you can see in the surface, I mean, that comes down to basically everything from villages, like this one over here. This is a pirate village. This is a normal village over here. And this one wasn't generated because it was too close to spawn, I guess. So we don't generate things too close to spawn. But for example, over here, this is a farmer's refuge. So if I teleport over here, you can see a farmer's refuge. Two very close ones, actually. I think that's going to change 1.0. But yeah, extremely easy to sort of find out where the nearest preset is. What's this over here? Another hunter cabin, for example. And another surface ruin. This is also a dungeon entrance, I guess. Very easy to find, and very easy for the generation system to ask what presets should be generated where. Go down here. I mean, a village. Looks like a village generated over here. So I can also find super easy where the nearest village is, for example. Obviously, in the old world, I mean, could be more presets, but still pretty crowded. But let's say if I go down into the cave system, for example here, then I mean, just gonna see on the lower side. I mean, a lot more crowded than the surface, as you can see. Becomes a bit laggy with this debug tool turned on. But still super easy to sort of ask everywhere where are stuff. I mean, as you can see, cave ruins here. This sort of represent the bounding box of those. This is sort of the bounding box, and also there's a spider nest generated here, and what else? Another cave crypt here, I guess, vampire crypt. Another vampire crypt here. Some loot areas, and so on. A test room here, and so on. And also I can sort of filter on some of the stuff I want. For example, if I filter sort of chieftain arenas, and as you can see, there's one down here. There's one up here I checked out earlier. But if I teleport down here, I mean, chieftain arena generated here, and you can also see some of the branches that's going off of it. For instance, this one down here, pathway leading to it, so that you guys can find it faster. That's also part of the preset region system as well. All these colors here, for example, they represent, as I mentioned earlier, around the cabin. If this preset is going to be generated, then everything with the number 839 is going to have to be generated as well, because it needs to place this down on top of that. So these branches, for example, though they don't need to be generated together, they can be generated as sort of alone as themselves. Same with minecarts. I mean, if I search for minecarts, there's a lot of those in the caves, and you can sort of see minecarts, I guess, going down here. It looks like all the way down here. Looks like it was blocked by this, and it can go from sort of one biome to another. For example, here is a great example, going from a forest to a desert biome, and they overlapping and so on. And even a TNT here. Yeah, that's sort of how the preset region system works on a very surface level. That's going to be it for today's video. Those were sort of some of the main systems that's working behind the scenes to make one world possible and the world generation. Obviously, there's a lot more systems working behind the scenes, but let me know if maybe we can check those out another day. Let me know if you want to see another video of those. Just to give maybe a bit of a sneak peek, I mean, there's a height system to sort of represent how far inland and how deep you are in water. There's another system for water type. For instance, this all represents fresh water, and if you go out to an ocean, this is sort of salt water. Used for fishing, for example, and there's a sort of biome blending between two biomes. This is a swamp biome, this is a forest biome. Another thing, I mean, there's wind, for example. This is sort of the wind, as you can see, the wind particles spawning here. Another separate system. Can be used for other effects and so on as well. So yeah, a lot of systems working behind the scenes. But that's it. I mean, we can't wait for you guys to check out all the hard work we put into 1.0. So to check it out when it comes out on October 16th in just under a month. We're super excited for you guys to try it out. Until next time, see you guys.